Welcome, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, to Black World TV, the new black media, your black and intelligent news source. Family, this past week, I don't know if you caught this story, but white anti-quarantine protesters have cruelly co-opted a black 18th century slave. You heard it right, and you heard it here at Black World TV, the new black media. So earlier this week on Twitter, Penn State University linguistics professor Uju Anya posted a photo of a white woman in a red scarf holding up an image of an enslaved black woman, Anastasia, held in a muzzle and choker in 18th century Brazil. Next to the image, the white woman in the red scarf, who, in this photo, is protesting COVID-19 shelter-in-place orders and many counties and businesses' requirements that patrons wear masks, has placed a message reading, quote, "Muzzles are for dogs and slaves. I am a free human being," unquote. Wow. Now, before I even go further, I just have to say that this white woman, this little Becky or Karen or whoever the hell you want to call her, this racist piece of work, comparing dogs to black human beings. And she referred to us as slaves. Notice how white racists always do that. Instead of referring to us as human beings also, they use the term slaves. And they pretend or forget that they were slaves themselves. They just don't want to ever talk about that. That's that white fragility. But nonetheless, the woman holding the sign is Greta Stenger from Humboldt County, California. She alleges that someone handed her the sign. Yeah, right. And she didn't realize it was racist until she was criticized. This piece of work, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to agree with Tariq Nasheed. As he said yesterday, these people know, anyone on this planet knows what racism is about. Don't let them tell you otherwise. It's a shell and pony game. They're just acting like they're stupid or dumb and ignorant. Maybe that's what it is. They're pretending to be stupid, dumb, and ignorant. But I digress. Shelter-in-place protesters in Germany and elsewhere have also used Anastasia's image to make a similar statement. So, what this sounds like is this white woman took cues from protesters in Germany and other parts of Europe, I'm sure, who have used Anastasia's image, as this article states. And she claims that someone handed her the sign and she didn't realize it was racist until it was criticized. But again, like I said, and just like Tariq mentioned, and just like you all know as well, these white folks, they know exactly what racism is, and they know exactly what they're doing. Trust me, she could have used any other picture, perhaps of a white slave. Oh, but that's right, they don't ever want to tell you that story about their slavery. But anyways, in the post, Anya explains that Anastasia, whose image Stenger used as a protest prop, was muzzled because her mistress, quote, ordered that an iron spike torture device be put on to deform her face and squeeze her neck out of rage and jealousy that the mistress's husband wouldn't stop raping Anastasia, unquote. In other words, and I've stated this in one of my other videos, black women should be fully aware why white women don't like you. They don't like you because they remember through their DNA and history that in the past, white men preferred you, black woman, over them. That's right. White men preferred black women over white women, especially during slavery. And on that point, why else do you think we have a plethora of mixed race people? Yes, some of them out of love, but so many more. And especially if we're talking about the coloreds in South Africa, as well as many light skinned people here in America, that was through rape. The rape of the white man raping black women and black men and children to boot. This is an indictment on the character traits of white men in particular. This is history. These are facts. You cannot change it any other way. But I digress. So again, just to just to really highlight that point, this white woman was showing this picture out of frustration, knowing that her white man loved to be with a black woman more than herself. So Anya goes on to explain that though Anastasia's image is a, quote, symbol of black women's power and resistance, unquote, it has just as often been appropriated for white rebellion and protests. Often referred to as Escrava Anastasia or enslaved Anastasia, the image of a young enslaved woman muzzled in iron offers one of the more dramatic and visually literal depictions of slavery's cruelty against black women specifically. The real existence of Anastasia in history has never been verified by historians, by the way. In many of these images, Anastasia has striking blue eyes. She's been officially ordained a saint within Brazilian Catholicism, particularly as a symbol of resilience for some poor Afro-Brazilian people, and is seen as a cure. Still, her status as a militant figurehead is disputed. Slave-era folktales can serve as double-edged swords, speaking simultaneously to resilience and assimilation. Anastasia's co-optation, then, should come as no surprise. And it doesn't, because black people in 2020, in the 21st century, were well aware of how white society and white people in particular love to co-opt anything black people create, invent, and come up with. It's called cultural appropriation. Culture vultures. They are notorious and experts at doing that, appropriating other people's culture. Why is that? Because they have none of their own. But I digress. But the resilience and rebellion of enslaved people has regularly been appropriated, twisted, and even refuted by white protesters on every end of the political spectrum, as demonstrated by the misguided yet revealing campaign for the 2014 white feminist movie Suffragette, in which Carey Mulligan and Meryl Streep wore t-shirts that said, quote, "I'd rather be a rebel than a slave," unquote. There is a deep history of white women proclaiming their supremacy only to insist that they themselves are the true victims of oppression. God damn, let me stop right there. When I read those words and had to have them come off my tongue started to burn. I kid you not. I think we all understand Becky and Karen's supposed and imagined supremacy. Well, maybe we won't say imagine, because after all, a white woman, all she has to do is shed a few tears and black people get killed behind it, i.e. Emmett Till. So maybe that statement is somewhat true, but it's so wrong on so many levels. But I digress. In the COVID-19 era, when it's clear that black communities are suffering disproportionately from infection with the virus, we see white women and men following in the footsteps of slave-owning mistresses and masters. I am white, so get out of my way, they're saying. In his essay in The Atlantic, quote, were still living and dying in the slaveholders' republic, unquote, historian Ibram X. Kendi writes, quote, slaveholders desired a state that wholly secured their individual freedom to enslave, not to mention their freedom to disenfranchise, to exploit, to impoverish, to demean, and to silence and kill the demeaned. The freedom to harm, which is to say, in coronavirus terms, the freedom to infect, unquote. When we talk about freedom in the United States, or United Snakes, and across the Western world, there is, in fact, no we, and there never has been. I am a free human being, quoted, read that woman's sign, which is to say, I am a white human being. Let me reread that one more time. Quote, I am a free human being, unquote, read that woman's sign, which is to say, quote, I am a white human being. So they equate I am a free human being with I am a white human being. Free, white. Catch the picture? This subtext is why white people, even well-intentioned ones, do not like to be called white. It reveals a sordid history that is still very much present, that plays a huge role in determining who lives and dies, who can demand respect and who should expect violation, whose right to freedom is enshrined and whose is inconvenient. When a white woman in the red scarf decided to use Anastasia's image to make her point, she happily evoked her whiteness. COVID-19 is not the greater equalizer, but the greater revealer. Cruelty is the point. The freedom to infect and the freedom to enslave are part of a seemingly endless constitution of white rights. To inflict. This is a slave-owning colonial history, one in which American Indian land was occupied and tribes decimated to make room for a manifest destiny, just as Africans were kidnapped to produce capital. Family, I'm going to end here, but on this last note, the very disdain for masks and general public health guidelines being shown by majority white protest groups throughout the US and Europe is based on their assumption of freedom from debility and the right to justice in the face of potential harm. So when these protesters hold up signs of varying languages saying essentially, I am white, believe them. This is Black World TV, the new black media, your black and intelligent news source. I hope you like and share this video, and please leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.